careful not to scratch the new boat. This is a nice little lake in Quebec, in the Papineau area. So many beautiful lakes to explore, lots of crown land, lots of parks. Beautiful lake, very clear. There's so many lakes around. It's just amazing. It's just, we live in a great place. I used to chase sports that were far away, sports and activities that were far away. Go surfing, you take a flight somewhere to go do an activity, to go move your body. So anyway, when you're live in Ottawa or Toronto even, or Montreal, we're very lucky to have so many beautiful spots. I'm paddling the Prospecteur Sport and T-Formex LITE today. You might know kind of the story of T-Formex, where they didn't have their own material before. Like Esquif did not have their own material. They used to mold sheets of Royal X. And a lot of manufacturers had sheets of Royal X. Mad River was a big brand back then. This must be about 20 years ago, at least. Kind of the peak of the thing is maybe 25 years ago, of Royal X, which was a revolutionary material, super durable, and you can bring it in the rocks and go portaging and put the boat on the ground and drag it across the rocks, or hit big waves and land on rocks. It didn't matter. They were really, really durable. And eventually Royal X came out with Royal X LITE. That was a lighter version of their Royal X canoes, indestructible Royal X canoes. And now, 25 years later, T-Formex has been around for about 10 years. I don't know the exact timeline, but I think it's 10 years or slightly more than 10 years. And now we're finally getting T-Formex LITE. So T-Formex itself is wonderful. So this canoe, for example, the Prospecteur Sport 16-foot traditional shape, a little bit more rocker than what you'd find in other brands because of its heritage coming from Quebec and all its beautiful rivers. This is a really, really capable boat, but as you can see, it tracks really well. I am correcting with a J stroke pretty much every stroke, but just nice and easy. It doesn't have to be held long. Just you kind of play with the cadence. Oh, turn right. So this one, for example, comes in at 65 pounds when it's not in the light version. So if you compare with a Kevlar boat at 40 pounds of similar dimension, it's like big difference, especially on a long portage, especially in an Algonquin park where people are used to doing big canoe loops on lakes. Not typically what the people do around here. I mean, it is popular because we have La Vérendrye Park and Papineau-Labelle Park, and still very close to Algonquin. But we're also blessed with so many great rivers, world-class rivers that people come from Europe to do. And so these are really durable canoes. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the most durable. And T-Formex on the market right now is just not beatable. But 40-pound Kevlar canoe is still super tempting. So now we have a solution. We have T-Formex LITE. So this one, instead of being 65 pounds, it's instead of being 65 pounds, sorry, it's only 55. So you lose 10 pounds. I love it. If this boat in this configuration, this is a green one, T-Formex LITE, I just love it. This Prospecteur Sport, slightly rounder bottom than the Prospecteur 16. Prospecteur 16, 15, 17 will not come in T-Formex LITE for the moment. But for now, what has been released is the Huron 17. It's a lighter weight, lower sidewall Prospecteur 17, so super nice, capable boat for like lake tripping with the family, occasional rapids that you want to take, but the freeboard's going to be a little bit lower, so you might take on a bit more water. Prospecteur Sport, that's the very first one that I received, was a Prospecteur Sport. Just like this one, we have a canyon and we have the pocket canyon. So all available on our website now. If you want to check it out, if you want one, let me know. They leave fairly quick, so I'm always kind of trying to update inventory. If you have any questions, just reach out. And if you're relatively, short distance drive away, if within a few hours, it's definitely worth the trip. We can talk about canoeing, we can talk about spots, and we can make sure that you're in the absolute best gear that it's gonna not only be good for you now, but also be good with you as you evolve with your paddling and your family. Beautiful. I'm gonna point you that way because we got the sun. I have my Esquif carbon fiber paddle, full carbon. We give the wooden T-grips as a gift at paddle.ca. I've had this one for 3 full seasons. So you see it's worn out a bit here because that's my bottom side when I'm on my power side. And I like it. It's really, really stiff, super light. You feel how stiff it is. Really, if you want to push yourself in the whitewater, everybody kind of goes towards a carbon fiber paddle eventually. Not the most comfortable for lake tripping because it has no give, so no little flexibility. Like there are some smoother paddles. We have the Pathfinder great tripping paddle, or Northern Light, more traditional, super sleek paddle. But today decided to take my good old faithful very first carbon fiber paddle that I own. Because I've been in, can't say all the Esquif boats, but probably, I'm pretty sure 90% of them, maybe 1 or 2 models I haven't been in. This one, always found it to be quite stiff, and I see the bottom, it's really, really stiff. I always do a test when I put them on my big work table at the shop. I test the bottom, test how like everything, the whole boat feels, and these Prospecteur Sports and T-Formex LITE feel super stiff, super capable. If you're gonna put your dog in your gear and your kids are gonna use it, or your friends are gonna take it down the river, go with the regular, and don't worry about it. If you want the lightest boat, as light as possible, but your main number 1 criteria is durability, then you go to this one. If you want more durable than all fiber boats, for sure, this T-Formex LITE. We could cover slightly little paddle length. Okay, when you're shopping for paddle, I'm fairly high on this boat now. Could be a touch higher, maybe a ½ inch, just to have that extra leverage. What I'm looking for at paddle length is when my arm is lined up with my forehead and I'm over the gunnel, because I want my paddle to be as perpendicular as possible to the boat. I want my paddle to be fully extended and straight, because that's where I have the most power. So what does it look like? Full extension. I'm not reaching out front too much. My hand is above the gunnel, and I'm ready. So this is a 56 or 56 and a half, I think. Could use maybe a 57. Yeah, it'd be a little bit more in the water for as high as I'm sitting now. This is my solo paddle boat, so solo boat paddle. But yeah, that's the idea, is that power zone, the first 18 inches, your hand is across to make the paddle straight in the water and straight in the water like this. We don't want to lift water, and we don't want to push down on the water. This is really the power zone. So we want to have optimal length in the power zone. That means our hand is not reaching too far above our forehead. I can see clearly under my arm, and I can reach over the gunnel and have a really straight paddle. The number 1 tip, I'd say, when you first get into canoeing, when you want to get a nice stroke, a really strong stroke paddle, what you want to do is play in that zone, the 18 inches from your hip bone forward. And we want to stop the J stroke at the hip. Sometimes when you're tandem, it's tempting to, you have power in the back, in the front, so you really try to reach back to have a little bit more leverage with the front. So we do that sometimes. But when you're solo, and then the more you do it solo, the more you want to do a tandem, is you just do short strokes. So for example, on this one, I like to wet my grip, feels a little bit better. On a solo, if I were to do power stroke, and I'm turning, right? I can follow the blade with my eyes to twist my body. I can lean into it a bit to get more leverage. So it doesn't feel powerful. It feels more powerful when you're really working your arms. But turning your torso in that 18-inch of space is really where it's gonna have the most impact. But I understand it can be frustrating at first, especially solo. If you find yourself paddling on one side, the canoe's turning, then you switch to the other side, the canoe's turning, not super fun. So the solution, this is a long boat, so it's sometimes a little bit easier on a long boat, maybe even less rocker than this one. This one has 3.5, I believe, of rocker. So it turns a little bit easier than a canoe with 1-inch rocker. When you're used to a bit of rocker, when you're used to controlling a boat that wants to turn a tiny bit more, unless you only do flat water, you kind of don't want to go back because it feels really maneuverable. Unless you're racing, like for sure, if you want a racing boat, but I'm talking for most people that want to explore this area, right? Within the 400 or 500 kilometers of our region. So Ottawa, Montreal, Quebec City, north of Toronto, Algonquin. You kind of want a boat that's able to do it all. And that includes having a bit of rocker. It includes the turns a little bit more. So that means you have a stroke, J. So you see when I try to do a good big stroke, I'm turning right away. So I want to counteract that with a little pull, okay, before I do so I pull down, J stroke. Pull down, J stroke. I'm pulling towards the boat, trying to move water underneath the boat, and I do my J. So it turns super well. The best is just to go out and be patient with yourself. Watch some YouTube videos on the J stroke, and then every stroke becomes easier and easier, and better and better, and tighter and tighter. And when you can handle a boat with a little bit of rocker on flat water like this, you can keep it really straight and predict, oh, it turns a little bit more, anticipate how the boat turns. Once you're able to do that, which is probably 4 or 5 first days of using that specific canoe, right? Then you'll be able to control it on moving water. Then a whole new terrain opens up to you. I'd say when you're going out there, be patient with yourself and allow yourself to feel how the water moves and on the canoe and absorb it all, and you'll be really good in no time. The learning curve is just a tiny bit steeper in the beginning on a canoe than on a kayak or maybe a paddleboard. Paddleboard you can go fairly straight by yourself, but standing up and the balance might not be super native for some people. So when you're investing in a canoe, what you're really investing in is creating memories. You have to make the time. You have to invest the time, invest some funds, but usually quite rewarding experiences and long-lasting memories. I just did the Dumoine River, and we were on a pocket canyon and a Prospecteur 16. I wish I would have been in this boat. There's a 1.5 kilometer portage. it's seared in my memory. I know I talked about it in the last video, but seared in my memory. Such a good time. I didn't do too many trips this year, just 2, and smaller day, lots of small day trips, but all of them quite memorable.